It's good, y'all. Today we're going to answer a very important question. That question is, did Drake destroy R&B music? Just to cut to the chase, the answer is no, he didn't. Uh, and if he did, it's kind of similar to the Mayweather effect, if any of you guys watch boxing, but if he did, it wasn't on purpose, and I'm going to explain why. So, R&B music has been in kind of a decline um, since, let's say, the early 2000s. So, if we go to early 2000s, if I learn how to spell one of these days. Okay. You got Alicia Keys, Usher, Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, Jennifer Lopez, Mary J. Blige, Destiny Child, Ashanti. And they were the dominating forces in music at the time. Like, yeah, there were pop artists that were also doing really well, different things like that. But for the most part, these were the people dominating the charts, and a couple of these people are still incredibly relevant today. So you have um, Usher, obviously super relevant. Um, Mary J. Blige, you throw on a Mary J. Blige slap, gets the party going. These artists are still doing very well, and Ashanti was monumental at the time. And then there's even more that they didn't mention, the Aaliyahs of the world, Mariah Carey, different things like that, even though some of them, like with Mariah Carey, kind of starts to bleed into the 90s. But when you have Drake coming out, so you have, when did Drake first come out? In 2006. I would say his first peak was probably around, um, let's say 20, between like 2010 to 2014. Rough numbers here. I think what started to destroy R&B is how well Drake was able to create these hybrid R&B rap songs where it really isn't R&B, it's him singing rap lyrics, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with Drake doing that. It's only a problem when naturally God given are blessed people who are born to sing and born to create masterful R&B songs, specifically R&B, not R&B rap or something like that, but R&B, start to take on this approach to basically create R&B music. Um, I think that was the beginning of the decline because um, R&B, the DNA of R&B and the DNA of rap music is completely separate. Now, does that mean they're not meant to be combined at some points? Yes, but when you're talking about the writing styles of how R&B songs, R&B hits are created, sorry, I have the flu. Um, versus how hip hop hits are created, it's a completely different ball game. So, uh, let's take an example here. All right, let's look at Michael Jackson, Thriller, credits. Rod Templeton. Just trying to find the actual credits here. Thriller single credits. God damn it. Why is this so hard to find? Okay. Okay. Thriller single by Michael Jackson features lead and background vocals by Michael Jackson, spoken vocals by Vincent Price, instrumental collaborations from various musicians, including Rod Temperton and Brian Banks, Greg Philin Gaines, and others. Quincy Jones produced the song, and Rod Temperton wrote it. So there's like a gang of people involved in making a Michael Jackson record. And it spoke clearly in the quality of the product. So you have someone who's dedicated to singing it and performing it, Michael Jackson. You got multiple musicians involved that have been playing their instrument since they were goddamn 5 years old or whatever, doing uh 3 or 4 hours of practice every single day, and then you have someone producing it on top of that that probably has a pretty damn good ear of how everything should sound together and how we can make the most out of the song that was written, the vocal performance, and just the overall sonics, including the mix. So when you have R&B singers, we'll take another one too. We'll take "Love" by Keisha Cole. Credits. All right. So you got Keisha Cole, writer; Greg Curtis, engineer, producer, writer; D. Elliott, additional producer; Ron Fair, additional producer, engineer. So basically, and you'll see this as it goes over time. Like instead of having specific like guitar, keyboard, this and that, you have people who are doing like drum programming and people who are just basically making contributions to the record. So it's like the same thing, except oh, excuse me, except and it's the same concept. You have a gang of people who are all super good at what they do, and they're working with the performer to create this masterpiece of a song. Okay, and no shade to Keisha Cole, but I would not be shocked if Greg Curtis wrote this song alone, and this was like the best out of 100 songs that he put together for Keisha Cole, or maybe for an R&B singer. You know, as they say in the music industry, Keisha Cole wrote a third, wrote a word, took a third. But hey, I don't know this. I wasn't there. Maybe Keisha Cole wrote more than Greg. I really don't know, but that happens. So basically, you got a trained. Let's look at this guy, Greg Curtis, American lobbyist and attorney from Utah. I don't think that's him. Greg Curtis, songwriter. Okay. Looks like he does some work with Omarion. So he wrote for If You Want to Dance, Nobody's Angel. He wrote for Joe. He wrote other songs for Keisha Cole. He wrote a song for Christina Aguilera. He wrote a song for Ronald Isley. And he wrote on Cupid by Lloyd, Sweet Love by Chris Brown. So what does that tell you is that this is a seasoned songwriter involved in making this record that was probably trained by another seasoned songwriter at some point who maybe wrote for the generation before Keisha Cole's um, top R&B talent, passed that information to him, and now he's writing hits for all these people, for Chris Brown, Lloyd, and Keisha Cole, Joe, etc. So, and I think he got a Babyface song on there too. But anyways, anyways, and then you got to also shout out to Dave Pensado, one of the greatest engineers of all time. So these are not like mistakes. R&B hits are not mistakes. All right. And this is what makes me mad because I meet a lot of R&B talent, ranging from people who might have a decent voice and they're known to their friends and family and they want to make their first song, to people who have Grammys and plaques. And what you'll see is, especially in the amateurs, is that the lower, I don't want to say success. I don't want to sound like I'm hating, but the lower the tier of the artist in terms of popularity and industry knowledge, the less likely they are to let other people write for them and direct what where the song needs to go. Sometimes, if I was an R&B singer, like let's say if I was some dude that looked like a goddamn model and I had a good singing voice and I wanted to be an R&B singer, I would have the best R&B, or I would just DM the best R&B writers in the world. I'd build a social media following and say, and go to these guys and say, hey, I want to make great songs. Write them for me. I'll cut the records, pay for the studio time, put all my time into social media marketing, and I'll figure it out from there. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like everybody treats music like it's is like their song is their baby, and it just couldn't be more incorrect of how great records are actually put together. Now, do you have some songs nowadays that are written by the artist that do really well, and then you also have your Princes of the world, who are the artist formerly known as Prince, rather, who can play the guitar, do everything. But these people are exceptions to the rule, and if you're trying to break into an industry, making your entire business model based off of one person who's an exception to the goddamn rule, you're an idiot. It's the dumbest thing. I like, and what's crazy is that this is so common. It's like it's like the young Ma scenario, right? Where you have one person that makes a hit without a hook, and now every rapper and their mom. I know this isn't now, but this is back when that song came out. Every rapper and their goddamn mom wanted to make songs without hooks because of one song, when every other song has hooks on it. Please explain that to me, how that makes sense. That's like, you know what that's like? That's like if there was one successful burger restaurant that made burgers without buns, and now you want to start a whole burger chain and none of your burgers have buns on them. That's what artists sound like to me when they don't want to write hooks, or they don't want to structure their songs remotely in a way that'll make it appealing to their listener, to the people that they're going to ultimately depend on to feed their families if they are so lucky to succeed at that level. So that's the first part. All right. And I would say I'm ending my rant, but this whole thing is a goddamn rant. All right. So now you have the divide, and this is going away from Drake, but this is more so like why R&B, especially traditional R&B, is dying, right? And the reason, well, let me take a quick note. The reason why traditional R&B is dying is because if you're making traditional R&B, so you take away your SZAs, you take away your Fridays, all these people, people who make that black cookout traditional R&B. The reason why that's dying, or why these artists are only sustained by these niche followings, is because they're doing some shit that has been done for like 20 years already by people who are also incredibly talented. And I know this producer, right? He produced a whole album by Monica, won a Grammy. And what he told me, it changed my life about production and R&B. He said the heart and soul. My bad, I'm gonna get myself worked up here. The heart and soul of R&B is innovation. All right, so you know, I love it. Like trying to recapture a vibe, make people feel nostalgic to the Mary Blige days, and even the Keisha Cole days and different things like that. But at the same time, those people are kind of missing the point of what R&B is all about, because Keisha Cole, Mary J. Blige, Marvin Gaye, even go back to Earth, Wind, and Fire. They did not make music the same, trying to capture the vibe of guys or artists from 10 and 20 years ago. They were fusing cultures, they were fusing sounds, they were making something new and putting their fans in shock and awe because you have the such a high level of skill and a high level of songwriting being packaged in a way that's never been heard before. So to my in my eyes personally, you take the what's that dude that's canceled? You take all right. Well, I'll leave it. I won't say him first. You take Steve Lacy. You take SZA. You take who else? Don Toliver. You take people like that. That is actually what traditional R&B is because they're expanding on the blueprint of what R&B is, and everything else that is like I'm not gonna put nobody on blast, but a lot of these artists that it's just a super good song, right? A super good singer on top of a nice little churchy little beat or whatever. That's and then they want to call themselves R&B purists, and it's not. It's just boring. It's been done before, most likely by someone who was more talented than you at that particular sound. So it's like why would you want to make songs like Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston when and I know that that's not like the perfect example, but it's like why would you want to make songs that are competing with Whitney Houston? Why is that necessary? You know what I'm saying? Like you could probably be especially in today's age because you don't even see like that much emerging R&B talent anymore. But like nowadays if you could sing probably a tenth as good as Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston and make a hit today in R&B on the right beat with the right song. It's called the music industry. It's called hits. It's called hit records. All right? And it's not called hit singing. It's not called hit recreating some shit from the past. It's a hit record. And I feel like a lot of R&B artists, many of them do, but a lot of them they just do not grasp this. So it's like R&B purists, that's a myth. There's no such thing as an R&B purist. All you have are people who are risk takers, pioneers, visionaries, and people who are using they might be 5 times more talented, but they're not willing to take a risk on a new sound or on a new direction. And guess what? What's the one of the fundamental aspects of business or in investing is risk. With risk comes reward. So you could be doing the damn Chitlin circuit all you want, being an R&B purist. But me personally, like when I work with artists, I'm all about like how do we create something that's never been done before, even if it's a 5% tweak on the model. How do we mix this a little weird? You know what I mean? How do we can make a new blend? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you need to fricking be singing on dubstep beats or some shit like that. But you just got to do something that's new. Like "Snooze" by SZA sounds like something you've heard a million times, but you've never heard it before. Like there is no song like "Snooze," but the familiarity to it and the quality of the writing makes you think that there's a million songs like that. But guess what? There's not. And it's like the song that she's singing, it's like like the well not the song, but the beat. It's almost like a lo-fi. It reminds me of like a lo-fi. Like if you look up like, this is no shade here. It's if you really listen to the beat, it sounds like if you looked up lo-fi reading music, but someone's just writing a slapper on that shit. Like that's what snooze is, and and if that was the approach, that's pretty genius because lo-fi music is super poppin'. So you just have SZA with her incredible voice, the songwriters that were involved in snooze or whatever, and involved, and it was a great formula. The song was a super smash, and and yeah, so that gets me on to my next topic. It's explaining why SZA and Chris Brown are winning. So let's look up uh SZA's last album. Who picked this picture? Fired immediately. Where is this? I'm looking for okay, discography, SOS. Look how many writers are on some of these. I didn't mean to go full screen. Hold on, y'all. All right. All right. So first of all, SZA worked with a variety of producers and songwriters such as Babyface, Legend, Jeff Basker, Legend, Rob Bizzle, Benny Blanco, Legend. Oh, you mean the guy that wrote on the last who's hold on. The guy who's married to Selena Gomez and wrote like all the goddamn hits of the last 15 years. Yeah, that Benny Blanco. Let's look at some of his songs that he's been involved with. This is probably the most incomplete discography. Lonely Justin Bieber, a bunch of Juice World songs. Oh no, these are his actual singles. I want to find like his uh songs that he wrote and produced on. Okay, production discography. If you're not familiar with Benny Blanco, this is gonna blow your mind right here. So this guy either wrote or produced on all these songs. Uh I want to start out with like a banger. Well, obviously you got Nobody Gets Me, SZA, Special, SZA, Moonlight, Kali Uchis, two-time platinum. Uh, but there's crazier ones. Race You, Kid Leroy. I mean, I don't really care about that one, but come on, where's the bangers at? Senorita, Shawn Mendes, Camilla Cabello, five times platinum. East Side featuring Halsey and Khalid, seven times platinum. I'm trying to find the old bangers. Freaky Friday, Lil Dicky. Uh, Happier, Ed Sheeran. Like this guy, like there's a small. If you guys don't understand, there's like a small group of writers and producers and engineers that do like all the hits in every genre. Like these are the best songwriters in the world, and you would never know that they're writing the top R&B hits, they're writing the top pop hits, and the reason why is because they understand how to write like hit song. They know how hit songs are made. But anyways, I went on a wild tangent just now. So Benny Blanco, Dark Child's Crazy Legend, DJ Dahi, Crazy Legend, Ant Clemens, and Lizzo. All right. So these are all the people, or some of the people rather, that were involved in this SOS album. And why? So that brings me back to my point. Is like, why is SZA still winning? Is because these songs are not being put together by accident. All right, there might be sparks of creativity and some type of um, spontaneity, as Quincy Jones used to say. You have to let God in the room. You gotta crack the door, leave let room for God to come in and bless your music. But damn, man, look at this lineup of people who are involved in these records, and it just shows you that she's putting songs together like a hit artist, and then just look at her chart. Look at her chart performance. Did she spend like some disgusting amount of time on the Billboard? Wait. Well, first of all, here's all her. She got Grammys off the album. She got BET Awards, MTV Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards. But I'm trying to find. She did 405,000 million. Wow, 405,000 million. No, 404.58 million on-demand streams first week. All right. A lot of that is set up by how good the previous album did. So I'm not going to say that the writers and stuff that she had involved had much to do with that. It was the quality of the album that came before it. But okay, here we go. SOS remained at the top spot for 10 non-consecutive weeks in 2022 to 2023 and became the chart's then longest running number one album by a woman in the 2020s, the first album by a woman to chart to top the chart for at least 10 weeks since Adele's 25. The first R&B slash hip hop album to do so since Drake's Views, and the first R&B album by a woman to do so since Mariah Carey's self-titled album in 1991. All right, now let's look at Chris Brown. Shout out to Ron E. That's my homie. He wrote one of the songs on this album. He actually got a Grammy for this, so shout out to him. But let's take a look. Rockstar, hitmaker, Troy Taylor. Y'all need to read up on Troy Taylor. That's a legend. Boy Wonder, Friday. I'm trying to find the. I'm trying to find the. Oh my god, I'm so congested. It's wild. I'm trying to find the songwriters track listing. I'm trying to find more detail because sometimes with the songwriters, you don't know if they are actually like writers of the song or if it's the songwriters of the sample, if that makes sense. But let's just look at one. Let's look at what's the latest hottest one? Residuals. Songwriters. Dwayne Whitmore Jr., Floyd Bentley, Jeremiah Green, Jamal Gaines. I bet you that these guys are people who write a lot of hits. Let's just see here. So you see what I'm saying? Dwayne, come on, Dwayne. Let's see. This guy right here is an absolute animal of a songwriter. All right. So he's worked with Chris Brown, obviously, Nick Jonas, David Guetta, Khalid, Usher, Zara Larson, Joji, Mary J. Blige, James Blunt. Like, they wasn't playing no games with this record. Like, and then you got Eric Hudson on the goddamn production. So it's like this song was built to succeed no matter no matter what. Like these are the type of people you put them in a room and a hit. It's like basically you have the highest odds of making a hit record possible. Who's Floyd Bentley? He has been credited on singles and albums for prominent music industry artists, including Drake, Chris Brown, Trey Songz, Future. He co-wrote Ladder's 2022 single "Wait for You," which peaked on the atop the Billboard 100 and won a Grammy. Bentley has often worked in tandem with fellow producer Hitmaker and his former spouse, Lyrica Anderson. Who's this guy? A1 Bentley. I've seen this dude before. But anyways, yeah. So they're sticking to the program. You know what I'm saying? Like SZA, Chris Brown. Now, I gotta throw some shade on a couple artists, and not because these artists aren't incredibly talented, but sorry, people be driving these fucking pea shooter ass cars down my main street. But anyways, all right. So let's look up something real quick. SZA monthly listeners. SZA has 81.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify. All right, so that's a shit ton. All right. Now, I don't mean to throw nobody under the bus. I'm kind of scared to even write this name, but I need to make a comparison here. Thames has a little bit under 17 million monthly streams. And this woman has a once in a generation quality voice and tone to her singing that I'm not saying she should be better than SZA, but goddamn man, you should be doing better than 20% as good as SZA. Like someone makes sense to me on why that's happened. So I have a guess, but let's break it down. Okay. I rest my case, ladies and gentlemen. So all these songs from her last album are basically her, the writers. I think that this guy was not even I think this guy is credited as a writer because he's making the beat. Sometimes producers are credited as writers because technically, when you make a beat for somebody, you're writing music. So if the song, let's say if the song was written on sheet music, you would have one that's like Thames with the notes that she's singing and the lyrics under it, and then you would have like let's say if you made a beat with goddamn guitar or something, it would have the notes of the guitar parts that he came up with the bass and everything. So I don't know. Let's see if there's some details on if he actually wrote these songs with her. Uh, did Thames write Born in the Wild by herself? Born in the Wild, Thames wrote and produced many of the tracks herself. It's definitely more expansive. Yeah, expansive is not the word. This is abysmal. Like with the quality of Thames' voice, I guarantee you, and I hate to say this, but there's probably like 20 to 40 individuals at her label that are involved with marketing, branding, all these things that when she talks about writing all this stuff on her own, they're rolling her eyes. And I know it sounds bad. You might be like, oh, well, who cares what the label people think? But Thames is bigger than this. Thames is an international, world class talent. Like, there's no reason why she should be writing songs on her own. Like, did this song even like what was the charting commercial performance? Debuted at number 56 with 16,500 equivalent albums sold on the genre-specific top R&B charts. Born in the Wild debuted at number 5. Like, nah, I can't stomach this. I just can't. Like, me and you is like it's cool. My mentor who's like a legendary producer. You know what he calls songs like this? He's like, oh, it's cute. That's cute. You know what I mean? But it's not a smash. Like, I hope that her chart performance and the performances album makes her think like, man, maybe I should work with the same writers that SZA works with. Maybe I should work with the same writers that Chris Brown works with. Like, just, and it's not to say that you won't write a single word of your thing again. So let me explain what it's like when you're working with these songwriters, right? They don't just, I mean, I guess there are times when they just come to you with completed bodies of work, but it rarely works like that. The way that it actually works, the way that it actually works, you meet with these people. First of all, you catch a vibe. You see if you guys even can stand being in the same room with each other. All right. You're Thames, so most likely they're gonna do what they can to be amicable and be nice and make Thames want to be around them. But let's say if for whatever reason maybe the person smells like friggin' a ham sandwiches, who knows? You know, Thames is like, I don't like being around this person, whatever, right? But once they can develop some type of relationship with you, they're gonna get to know you really, really well, right? Damn near at the level of a therapist, right? They're gonna get to know you super, super well and help you dig deep and help you sing your story better than you would have been able to do on your own and formulate it into chart topping smash hits. That's what they're going to do. So your music might even be more personal working with these songwriters at this level because they're asking you the deep questions that you might not ask yourself as a writer. You know what I mean? They're digging deeper and they're writing the songs with you and they're making all the melodies that you sing sweeter. They're making them less congested and different things like that, and basically taking the song to the next level. And you know what the beautiful thing is too? If you're working with these writers for long enough, which you'll see with with the SZAs of the world and a lot of these different artists, is that when you write with them for a while, you're gonna catch a banger on your own that you wrote on your own, and it's because it's like if like how they say like if you want to get good at basketball, you play with all people who are better than you. You know what I'm saying? So the point when that happens is not be like okay. now I don't need to work with other writers anymore because I've absorbed all the top skill from all the top songwriters in the world. But you are going to catch ones on your own. But if you think that, okay, now I don't need writers anymore, you're going to see a very slow decline in your career. Most likely, 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. If you ever wondered why your favorite artists declined from, and this has happened since the 80s, like probably even before that, but why some artists come out with these crazy good albums, and then as it goes on the albums get worse and worse and trasher and more trash, is because the more successful they got, the less they wanted to listen to other people around them that may know what they're talking about. And usually by the time that they realize, or maybe they might not even realize it, but by the time that they realize that, wait, maybe I do need a little bit of help on this songwriting stuff, usually it's too late. And the difficult thing about working with these top writers in the world is that they are working with the top talent in the world. So your best bet was, when you were red hot, was to have an ego, or have a non-existent ego. Be It's like if Chris Brown could sit in a room and have people pen hits for him, and he gets in the booth, does his Chris Brown thing, which no one could do, by the way. No one could perform these songs like SZA. No one could perform these songs like Chris Brown. All right, that's that's world class talent in itself. It's a subsection of musical talent. So let me just make that clear. But if Chris Brown could sit down and employ the best songwriters in the world to put his stuff together, then how come a freaking artist with 30,000 streams, made maybe I mean, not 30,000 streams, 30,000 Instagram followers, made a couple of hot um song covers. Why can't they listen to someone who's a talented songwriter and recreate the same effect? It's just it's pure stupidity. It's pure stupidity. So with that, that ends my rant on, did Drake kill R&B? And the answer is not intentionally, but yeah. But actually, you know what the funny thing is? Drake's using all the ghostwriters and shit in the world. So is Kanye. So a lot of the top rappers, they're making this song with the same methodology. So hey, take from it what you will. I want to hear what you guys agree with. I want to hear what you guys disagree with. And yeah, until next time, cheers.